Hello, Aries. If you're listening right now, not just with your ears, but with your heart, then maybe you've already started to feel something, a subtle shift, like a breeze brushing across your chest, like a quiet current moving beneath your thoughts. But no words have come to name it. Could it be that something is changing? Not a change you can point to, not one you can explain, but a whisper, deep, distant, almost like a calling. And if lately you've found yourself more tired than usual, easily distracted, quietly overwhelmed, feeling stuck somewhere between a past that's already gone and a future that hasn't yet arrived, then you're not alone. You're stepping into a sacred moment in your life, a moment the universe calls a fated shift. It sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But really, it begins in silence, not with milestones you can mark, not the day you quit your job, ended a relationship, or packed up and moved to a new city. No. This kind of shift begins when you no longer feel like yourself, in a life that once felt familiar, when what used to excite you now only brings a sigh, when silence starts speaking louder than any conversation, when old dreams no longer feel warm enough to sleep in. You're not lost, you're being rearranged. There's an old saying, where it breaks is where the light gets in. And maybe, Aries, just maybe, right now that light is seeping into your life, in the shape of chaos, because chaos is the prelude to rebirth. Messiness is a sign that something old is moving out so something new can move in. That's how the universe works, not in loud explosions, but in quiet fractures, tiny cracks, pulling you back to yourself, back to what you've always been. But somewhere along the way you forgot. You may have grown used to seeing yourself as the strong one, the warrior, always moving forward, always on fire. But even fire, Aries, needs a quiet place to rest, to rekindle, to begin again. Sometimes stopping isn't giving up. It's listening more deeply to whatever is calling you from beyond this change. Maybe that's where you are now, in the space where the old becomes too tight and something unnamed is quietly unfolding beneath your feet. Not everyone will see that doorway. Only those brave enough to sit in the in-between, to listen to what the heart has been whispering all along, will realize this is not the end. This is an invitation to begin again, for real this time. And you get to start over, not because you failed, not because you're weak, but because you're finally done pretending you're fine. You may not know what lies ahead, and that's okay. That's what makes this journey holy, because you're not walking with a map. You're walking with trust. Trust that beyond the confusion, there is light you were born to find. Trust that you are not being lost. You're being realigned, like a compass quietly finding its true direction. After the storm has passed, you're not lost. You're being realigned, and once you've heard that calling, you can't go back. You can't live the same. You can't love the same. You can't dream the same, because your soul is growing, and the cost of growth is breaking. So if you feel yourself breaking open right now, don't be afraid. Light is still waiting for you just beyond the things you're learning to let go. But before that light can enter, Aries, we must first learn to sit with the dark. Some storms can only be understood when we stop running, sit still, and look inward. Only then will we know why it came and what within us quietly called it in. So breathe with me now, step gently with me, because behind the light, there is always shadow, and behind every strength, there's a story that's never been told. Let's take a deeper look at the storm that started it all. Some sadness arrives, not like a storm, not in a rush like summer rain. It comes slowly, like a fog thickening just a little more each morning, until one day you can't quite see yourself in the mirror anymore. Aries, how many times have you woken up and felt like you're living someone else's life? Same house, same job, same people you used to feel so close to. But something inside you feels hollow, quietly hollow. No one knows, no one sees, and maybe no one's even asked if you're truly okay. Maybe you stopped asking yourself that too, so you keep going like everything's fine, but beneath the surface, a silent storm begins to swell. Worries about money, heartache that lingers, that strange feeling like you've somehow drifted out of your own life. You might be smiling, but when the night comes, you lay still, listening to your heart grow quiet, like stone, and you don't know where to begin, because there's nothing clear to hold on to, just a heavy feeling building in your chest until one day it breaks. Not with a crash, but with a single tear falling onto your shoulder. A sigh that lasts too long, a faraway look. As you're washing dishes or driving home, have you ever wondered if your greatest suffering might actually be your greatest teacher? What if that very pain, the one you keep hiding, the one you wish would just go away, is the doorway to the deepest part of who you are. In Buddhism, suffering, or dukkha, isn't a punishment, it's the nature of life, and more than that, it's the invitation to wake up. We don't grow from ease, we grow when the heart breaks, and we still find a way to love again. When dreams collapse, and we still dare to dream anew. Maybe what's happening isn't here to destroy you, it's here to awaken you, because sometimes the soul starts to whisper, I can't live like this anymore. And that, Aries, is when the real journey begins. That's the voice of the light calling to you from the heart of the dark. Some call it a spiritual awakening. Some call it God knocking on the door of your heart. Whatever name you give it, it always starts with a crack, and it's through that crack that the light begins to enter. Don't be ashamed of your exhaustion. Don't push sadness away like it's some unwelcome stranger. Sometimes, sadness is just a lost child trying to find its way home to you. Let it sit, let it speak. It might show you which part of your heart still needs to be held. There's a line in scripture that says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And in Buddhism, the Bodhisattva is not born from ease but from compassion, after lifetimes of sorrow, returning to serve others. So maybe, Aries, you're one of those souls too, a soul that's endured long nights and breakdowns that nearly kept you from rising. But you're still here, still listening, still opening just a little so the light can find its way in. You are not weak. You're being refined like gold in the fire. You're being carved like stone before it becomes a jewel. Don't rush to fix it. Let yourself sit in the dark a little longer, because darkness is not the end. It's the womb of rebirth. And if you're brave enough to stay, not run, not judge, just stay, you might hear your soul for the first time clearly, a whisper, unhurried, but deep enough for you to realize it's time to let go, not to give up on life, but to release what no longer feels like you. Let go of the heavy masks. Let go of dreams that no longer fit. Let go of expectations you've carried too long, just to keep others from being disappointed. Let go, so your hands are free to receive what's coming. Some doors only open when you're willing to set your old baggage down, and once you're ready to do that, something begins to shift, not with a bang, but with a quiet relief so deep you might cry, because in that moment, you finally realize you don't have to hold it all anymore. And that's where healing truly begins. Not by running from the pain, but by realizing the pain has been pointing you home all along. So take your time, Aries. What comes next won't be born from force, but from the stillness of knowing it's time. Time to move forward, not because the pain is gone, but because you've learned how to carry it and still live with peace. There are paths in life where you have no choice but to walk away, not because you didn't love, not because you didn't try, but because you start to realize you're slowly losing yourself piece by piece, trying to hold on to something that no longer belongs to you. Dear Aries, if you're in that space right now, take a moment. Breathe. This is not just a departure. This is a return, a journey back to yourself. The journey of the Six of Swords, the card of quiet transition, not dramatic, not loud, but irreversible. The man in that boat says nothing, but the way he looks toward the horizon speaks louder than any words ever could. He knows he has to go, not because he's ready, but because he simply can't stay. We've been taught that letting go means giving up, that walking away is weakness, that surrender means failure. But has anyone ever told you that letting go can be an act of great courage? It takes guts to leave a job that once felt like your dream. It takes clarity to recognize when a relationship is no longer healing, but draining. It takes love, real love, to say, I can't keep living in a space that no longer fits who I'm becoming. Letting go doesn't mean it wasn't beautiful. It means it had its time, it served its purpose, but now it's time to change. Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. Nothing, not even the things we swore we'd hold forever, truly belong to us. And in that movement, the soul begins to wake up. Aries, you were born with the energy of fire, passionate, loyal, all in. But fire can't keep burning in a place where there's no more oxygen. Maybe now it's time to leave, not because you're not enough, but because that space no longer matches the light you're stepping into. You might have to move to a new city, a place you never thought you'd live. You might have to change careers, say yes to a path you never dared to imagine. You might have to let go of someone you once thought would walk beside you forever. Whatever it is, one truth remains: you're stepping into a rebirth. The Five of Cups speaks of sorrow, of staring too long at the cups that spilled and forgetting the two still standing behind you. We hurt so much sometimes that we don't even notice there's still love waiting. There are doors gently opening, but we're not ready to turn around yet. And that's why this moment matters. It touches the deepest wound, not to harm, but to awaken. You don't need to know where you're going. You just need to take that first step away from what no longer feeds your soul. And when you do, everything changes. You'll feel your breath return. You'll hear your own voice again. You'll remember what it feels like to be alive. And maybe for the first time in a long while, you'll see yourself clearly, whole, no longer performing to please anyone. Because when you walk away from what once mattered, you're choosing yourself. Don't fear the change. Fear staying somewhere that stopped being fertile ground. And if you're standing at the edge, not sure whether to stay or go, ask your heart just one question. Is this still lifting me up or only holding me back? You don't owe anyone an explanation for wanting more peace in your life. You only owe yourself a chance to live aligned with your truth. And once you take that first step out of the safe zone, something stirs inside you. Not fear, but deep relief. So deep, it might bring you to tears. Because that's the moment you know you're not running. You're not escaping. You're walking out of the cage. And this time, you're walking home. Sometimes, what you're looking for isn't out there. It's been inside you all along, just waiting for you to let go enough to see it. And when the weight lifts from your shoulders, Aries, that's when the real magic begins. Not from the world outside, but from you. A gift begins to stir like a seed waking after the first spring rain. A talent, a light, a sacred piece of you that had long been forgotten. Now rising, quietly, gently, in the holy silence of becoming, there are some gifts that don't come in pretty boxes. They don't show up on birthdays and they don't wear red ribbons. They come through tears, through darkness, through nights you collapsed and no one even knew. Dear Aries, if there were days when light couldn't find its way into your mind, if you've ever woken up, exhausted before the day even began, if you've ever loved so deeply that you lost yourself, only to learn how to love again, this time starting with you, then maybe you carry within you a gift this world desperately needs. Not a gift of degrees or polished skills, but the quiet power to heal, born from the very wounds you've walked through. For someone with an empath soul, feelings go deeper. You don't just see someone's sadness, you feel it, like it's living in your chest. You don't just hear the cracks in their voice, you recognize the shards, because they touch a place you've broken too. And sometimes you wonder, why am I so sensitive? Why do I always feel before others even react? You're not wrong, you're not weak. You are carrying the light of deep empathy in a world that's often too loud to hear real pain. Buddha once said, only those who have suffered can truly feel compassion. Only those who have knelt down can lift someone up with love that asks for nothing in return. In Buddhism, a bodhisattva isn't born from joy. They're born from compassion, shaped through lifetimes of hardship. Yet still they return, with a heart that's soft, not hardened. You might not call yourself a bodhisattva, but if you still choose kindness after all the hurt, if you still believe in love after betrayal, if you still reach to help, even when no one reached for you, then maybe you're here to lead, to light the way. And maybe that's what real success is, not the money in your account, not how many people you impress, but how many wounds you've turned into light, how many hands you've held, right at the moment they were about to give up. You may have thought you're not special, but you are. Your lived experience can't be copied. No one can teach what you know, how to hold someone who's hurting the way you do. No one can touch another soul as deeply, because you've been in the dark, and you know how to walk out of it. This line might make you pause. Maybe your purpose isn't found in your success, Aries, but in how you survived. Not how you won, but how you rose from the rubble, heart cracked but still beating for something bigger than yourself. And those cracks, they're exactly what makes people trust you. They come to you not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And in a world starving for sincerity, real always has a place. Maybe it's time to stop asking, what do I have to give? And start asking, what have I lived through that could become light for someone else? Because every pain holds a lesson, and you, not anyone else, have the power to turn it into light. Have you ever felt that the pain you went through wasn't meaningless? That somewhere out there, someone's waiting to hear the very story you've never told? If the answer is yes, then share it, not perfectly, just truthfully. Because maybe the light you carry is the only hope someone has today. Have you ever felt like your pain wasn't in vain? Share your story, even just a few lines. Someone somewhere might be waiting for your light like it's their saving grace. And then something begins to shift. When you can finally tell your story without shaking, when you can stand not to prove anything, but simply to be present, that's when something rare begins to appear. A path brand new, unwritten, a way forward that leads you, not just to meaning, but to a deep kind of fulfillment. The kind you don't count with numbers, but with this feeling. I'm living what I was meant to live. And that's how the new journey begins. Not lonely, not lost, but whole, where you not only find yourself, but finally know how to give yourself to this life as a gift. There are doors in life that only open when you're brave enough to close the ones you've clung to for years, not because they were bad, but because you've outgrown the space inside them. And now, Aries, when you've let go enough, when you've started living in truth, with your wounds, your light, and the parts of you that never had a name, something beautiful begins to approach, quietly. A brand new beginning. The Ace of Pentacles shows up like a quiet blessing from the universe, not loud, not flashy, but real. A tiny seed rests gently in the palm of your hand. It looks small, but if nurtured right, it could grow into a garden, even a forest. This opportunity might be a new job, a collaboration, an idea that once crossed your mind on a sleepless night, one you never thought you'd actually act on. Or maybe it's just a clear, powerful feeling inside. It's time to live differently. The Ace of Pentacles doesn't promise riches overnight, but it opens a path, one that moves slow enough for you to stay true to yourself, and deep enough for every step to feel meaningful. And if you stay with it, step by step with faith, at the end of that path, the Ten of Pentacles is waiting, not just wealth, but legacy, the feeling that I didn't waste my life. Take a pause and ask yourself, what if your legacy was born not from ambition but from compassion? What if what you leave behind isn't a title or a resume or a number, but a list of the hearts you've touched, the pain you've turned into soft wisdom, the stories you've told that made someone feel less alone? On their own journey, Aries, this world doesn't need more perfection, it needs more truth. More people like you who have been bruised by life but still choose to walk into the world with kind eyes, because in an age where everything can be bought, authenticity is priceless. You don't need to build a career from cold ambition. You can start from what makes you feel alive, a belief, a gift to heal, a way to guide others through a heart that's broken but still filled with love. Maybe you've told yourself, I'm not skilled enough to start something new. I don't have what it takes. But can you feel what's shifting? The most inspiring people today aren't the ones with the most degrees, they're the ones with the real stories and the courage to live them out loud. The world is shifting towards sincerity, and Aries, you're right at the heart of that change. If you've ever wanted to start a podcast, share your story in a video, write a book, open a healing space, or just reach out a hand to help someone through something, you've already survived. Now is the time. No one's asking you to be a success overnight, but if you never plant the seed, how will you ever know what could bloom? The lesson here isn't go make money, it's go create meaning. A kind of value that starts from the heart and ripples into the lives of many. You might not get a standing ovation, but someone somewhere might quietly thank you for stepping out, for starting over, for daring to live differently. And that might be the greatest gift you'll ever give this world. And like any fire, if you want it to burn steadily without burning you out, it needs a solid base, a safe space to rise and shine. So Aries, if you're ready to become the brighter version of yourself, then the first step isn't to rush forward. It's to build the ground inside you, a space where your flame can grow without burning you down, a space steady enough for you to burn bright and still be at peace. There are times in life when we think we need a miracle to change everything, but sometimes all we really need is a simple calendar, a pen, and a little patience. Dear Aries, you've walked through the deepest valleys of pain. You've stood back up from the pieces, and now you're beginning to see a new path filled with light and promise. But let me ask you this, are you willing to believe that your light needs discipline to keep shining? We often think of discipline as restriction, as rules, routines, rigidity. But in the deeper layers of healing, discipline is actually one of the most profound expressions of self-love. Because when you love someone, you take care of them every day. And if you truly love yourself, then waking up on time, drinking enough water, meditating 10 minutes each morning, or writing a few lines before bed, it's no longer a chore. It becomes a gentle promise, a quiet devotion to your own heart. The Temperance card doesn't speak of extremes. It's not asking you to change your life overnight. It simply whispers. Start with the smallest thing and treat it with the same reverence as if you were tending sacred fire. Because real transformation doesn't come from the big breakthroughs. It lives in the quiet habits, the invisible ones. That, when repeated with kindness, can reshape your entire life. You don't need to be fully healed to start living. You only need to tend to the part of you that's healing now. Today, you write one sentence to thank yourself. Tomorrow, you clear your workspace just to breathe a little easier. Next week, you give yourself one afternoon to learn something new, not for a degree, not for approval, but simply to feed your own curiosity. Each of these tiny steps is like soft rain falling into the soil. You won't see much at first, but one morning, you'll look back and realize you're no longer the same. Aries, your power isn't just in how brightly you burn. It's in how you keep your flame alive day after day. You are strong, but don't let that strength be consumed by a life with no pause. Sit down, take a breath, write something tonight. Choose food that nourishes your body, not drains it. Speak gently to your reflection, even on the days when you feel far from perfect. These aren't small things. These are your roots, the ground where your fire can grow safely. And here's the quiet truth. When someone starts to bring order inside themselves, they don't just change their life, they change how they move through the world. They no longer carry chaos, anxiety, or anger. They bring peace, peace that has roots. And maybe that's the most precious gift you could offer the world. To build a kind, stable, healthy society, we don't just need rules. We need people who know how to return to themselves first. People brave enough to rekindle their inner fire, not just to light their own way, but to warm the hearts around them. So if today you begin with just one small change in your routine, you're stepping into your true power, not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that makes people feel safe around you. Power that radiates from within, even if the world outside still feels uncertain. And when your fire is fed by love, by daily tenderness and care, when your mind finds its rhythm again and your body finally feels like home, that's when, Aries, you're no longer just surviving, you are rising. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when everything around you seems to fall apart. What you once believed no longer feels true. The roles you've held on to no longer fit, and even you are no longer the person you thought you were. Dear Aries, if you're standing in that space right now, where everything familiar feels distant, where you feel like you're standing in the ashes of an old version of yourself, please know this is not the end. This is the beginning of something sacred. The death card, often feared, often misunderstood, is not a symbol of finality. On the soul's path, death is never the end. It's a passage, a turning point into something deeper. The death it speaks of is the death of illusions, of the old self, of what once served you, but now needs to be let go. It's the death of the you who tolerated pain just to feel accepted, the slow unraveling of the masks you wore just to survive. It's the collapse not to destroy you, but to clear space for light to enter. In Buddhist wisdom, there's a quiet truth. To end suffering doesn't mean to reject life. It means to wake up within it. Rebirth isn't something that happens after death. Rebirth can begin right now, the moment you choose to see life with new eyes, when you sit beside yourself without judgment, when you begin to stitch back the torn parts with threads of truth and kindness. Imagine yourself as a torch. There were moments when your flame was faint, on the edge of disappearing, but now, in the warmth of these ashes, a spark is still glowing, not wild, not loud, but steady, patient, quiet, and alive. And slowly, you begin to shine again from within. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt. And this time with truth, with grace, and with fire. Maybe you've walked through things others couldn't imagine. Maybe you fell in places no one ever saw. Maybe you've asked yourself if you were strong enough to return, but look at you now, still here, still listening, still opening your heart to live more fully. And that, dear Aries, is already a miracle, because real light isn't the kind that makes everything look flawless. Real light is the kind that finds the cracks, that reaches into the dark and reminds someone else they can rise too. You once thought you had to be strong, flawless, unshakable, but now, maybe you've come to understand it was your falling that taught you to rise with greater compassion. And from now on, you don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to prove anything, because you have become your own flame, and no one can put it out, because it no longer depends on anything outside of you. This flame doesn't just light your path, it guides others, it warms the lost, and simply by living as your whole self, you are healing the world. Thank you, Aries, for walking this path all the way to this final breath of the story. Thank you for not rejecting the darkness within you, and thank you for letting the light enter again. I wish you a new journey filled with peace, with clarity, and worthy of the brave heart you carry in your chest.